Smolsky, and I'll be discussing with you an issue that I believe needs to be resolved as soon as possible. I'll be fighting for the closure of SeaWorld's parks around America, and I'm sure you've heard of them with locations in California, Texas, and Florida, and their focus on the performance of orca whales. However, I do not believe everyone knows about what goes on within these horrible parks. Before I begin, I would like to clarify something. SeaWorld as a whole is not all that bad. It's just their parks that are bad. With over 27,000 successful rescues, SeaWorld has a very successful rescue and rehabilitation program. This is what most SeaWorld supporters are fighting for, and I agree with this statement. Yet, this does not make up for what has happened within the company's parks. I would like to begin with a few stories of the park's residents. First, we have Obi, an 18-year resident of the park who has since died from the terrible conditions, diagnosed with severe psychological distress from having no outside world contact. He had also begun to have blindness from living in the chlorine-filled tanks covered in algae. Next, we have Morgan, the orca who has attempted to kill herself multiple times by beaching herself and hitting her head into the metal cages. Next, we have Senja, the polar bear who did have a friend within her tank. However, after having her friend stripped from her and transported somewhere else, she had died from being heartbroken 3 months later. Lastly, we have Tilikum, the focus of the Netflix documentary Blackfish, who you will see later caused big debate over the topics. Tilikum, alongside with the park's orcas, live in terrible concrete tank conditions that are only 35 feet deep when they are used to swimming over hundreds of miles a day. They consist of no shade, leading to sunburn among all the orcas that are covered with black zinc to attempt to hide these burns from the public. Against their wills, they are separated from their families at young ages, and they are unable to create relationships with each other. They are separated in their tanks, and they are forcefully bred, as it is hard to capture more orcas from the wild. Deprived of food to only be fed during a performance once a trick is completed, these orcas are forced to get what they need to survive. Aggression between the orcas begins with them biting each other and headbutting one another. They are also consistently drugged to reduce this aggression. Their teeth are drilled for easy cleaning, and they are worn down from biting each other and metal bars within the cages. And these are easily visible harm. This is easily visible harm, but there's also the harm of the flopped over dorsal fin that you can see in this picture. This is a site of unhealthiness, and the public is lied to by saying this is a genetic trait, as this only occurs in only 1% of orcas, and most orcas should have their dorsal fin flop straight up. All of these horrible factors lead up to accident that involved Tilikum, which was expected, yet nothing was done to prevent it. On February 24, 2010, Dawn Branshaw was dragged in the pool and killed by Tilikum. Media tried to cover it up, saying it was her fault. However, not much was done about this. Prior to this, 70 cases of orca aggression had been recorded, according to Blackfish, 2 of which had related deaths, both from Tilikum, yet nothing was done to prevent this tragic death. Since Dawn's death, progress to close the parks was finally been taken. Multiple high authorities have stepped down, including the park's CEO. Corporate partners and several ties with the parks have been broken, including aircraft carriers supporting the parks on their planes. The attendance of the park has dropped by 1.2 million visitors in the past year, according to National Geographic. Yet, that is only a decrease of 5.5% of attendance, and all the animals are still imprisoned until their death, and many orcas are still used for guest entertainment. Thus, what can you do? There are multiple online petitions that you can sign through high-influence organizations such as PETA. Highly suggest to watch the documentary Blackfish to get a bigger insight into what is happening in these parks. Another method that is just as powerful as through sharing of SeaWorld's terrible existence through social media is through a retweet of an article, but simply do not go to SeaWorld. The way I see it is through this quote: "When you buy a ticket, you're paying for them to abuse the animals." I would like to end with the fact that orcas are beautiful animals, that the company SeaWorld seems to have ignored the fact that they are indeed killer whales. They are to be respected and live freely. SeaWorld has disrupted this natural order and caused so much harm to orcas and humans. If this information has not convinced you that SeaWorld parks must be closed, I'm not sure what will, but either way, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Here are the references.